Hello everyone, and welcome to the final round, round 12 of the WCS League, round 13 rather, of the WCS League GP series. This is season 3, and it is indeed the final round of the series. The championship, of course, has already been wrapped up in favour of Stefan Rohr, who has won the Drivers' Championship here. But second place is still open. That could go to either Lauren Keersmakers or Danny van der Neert. So the two RaceView.nl GP guys fighting over second in the championship. Also with the team standings, that could go either way as well, as you have RaceView.nl GP and Holland Racing Team fighting over the championship there. So still a lot to play for here. And Stefan Rohr definitely doesn't have his job completely finished here, as he still has to help his team sort out the team's championship, which they are currently not leading, as the RaceView.nl GP guys of Lauren Keersmakers and Danny van der Neert have just been the quicker pair rather than the quicker individual, who so far, or who this year has been Stefan Rohr. Just watching Lauren Keersmakers completing a hot lap here. This looks like it's going to be a quick one, so as he crosses the line, we'll see what it is, and indeed is it an improvement? Yes, it is. It's a 1:13.076. So far, he's over 7/10 of a second faster than anyone else, as Jarek de Vries meanwhile goes up into third place. Let's look down now at Antonio. Whoa, that's a big spin for Ryan Nash. Let's have a look at Antonio Srelanovic. He's coming through the final sector now. Oh, bit of a slide. That's going to cost him some momentum there. And Srelanovic maybe won't put in a lap as quick as he could do here. But it's still quicker than his best, although he doesn't move up a position. Wait, yeah, he does. That's fourth place for Antonio Srelanovic. So fourth place now for Antonio. And that's ahead of Dan Hutt, who is in fifth so far. Here's Danny van der Neert in the other RaceView.nl GP car. He has not yet set a competitive lap time, so this is going to be his first, and we'll see where this puts him on the order. It's not great so far, actually, and I don't even know if this is going to be better than his best, which is currently last out of the 12 drivers we have here. And as he crosses the line, it moved him up one place, so maybe van der Neert genuinely struggling here today. Because, of course, we wouldn't expect him to be this far down the order or the times. And, in fact, behind him, Roland Hutt himself is possibly going faster again. So, maybe van der Neert's going to be at the back of the grid here. I get the picture. He hasn't had much practice for this round. And that could be dramatic in terms of the team's championship if he really isn't up to pace today. And, hopefully, he can get it sorted before the race. Well, the race is, of course. We'll have two races here today. A feature race to start off with. That's 40 minutes with a mandatory pit stop, and then we will have a reverse grid race 2, partially reverse grid anyway, which will be a 20-minute race with no mandatory pit stop. Across the line goes Roland Hutt, and he does not move up a place with that lap. It was a quicker lap than his best, but he's still in 12th position and last of all the runners so far. Danny van der Neert is intending to improve with this lap, although he's run over the line and got a bit sideways there. Over the curb. Yeah, I don't think this lap's going to count, seeing as he ran further than the curb. And as he crosses the line, he really should have backed out of that lap, actually. He moves up to 9th, but he should have backed out of that when he ran all four wheels over the curb. Of course, in most racing, it's the white line that determines the track limits. Here we determine it from the curb, but he was well and truly over the curb there. Now, Stefan Rohr is currently second in this session, and well, appears to have put in a couple of quick sectors there. This could be a challenge at provisional pole. Through the final corner he goes. He needs to get this final sector hooked up. Doesn't quite touch the grass. That's good. And now as he crosses the line, what's the lap? Well, it's not provisional pole. So Stefan Rohr, well, it was a quicker lap than his personal best so far, but he's still almost 4/10 of a second off Lauren Keersmakers. So Keersmakers seems to have it absolutely sorted here so far. What about Srelanovic? He is in the final sector at the minute. There's the final corner through the dip. Whoa, that's a bit of lag. That car did definitely didn't move how I just saw it move there. And as he crosses the line, he moves up to third. So Kralanovic moves up to third and displaces Gerrit de Vries, who drops to fourth there in the Holland Racing Team car. Now Stefan Roll again is going quicker in the first sector, quicker than his best anyway. So far, no one seems to have had an answer in any of the sectors for Laurent Keersmakers, who just seems to have this car sorted at this track so far. Roll has 2 corners to go in this lap. Final corner here. It's the shortest track. He's going right over the curb there and onto the grass, so that's going to ruin that lap, I'm afraid. Indeed, he abandons it before he crosses the line. This is the shortest track on the calendar this year, at just 1 minute 13 seconds in time length, and in terms of distance as well. I'm just trying to find the exact statistic. It's 4.318 kilometers, so really not long at all. Meanwhile, Antonio Kralanovic puts in another lap and again does not improve there. Top lap I see actually improving at the minute is Dan Hutz. He's just set a pretty quick first sector there. Dan Hutz, the youngest driver on the grid this year. I think we had a younger driver earlier on this year in Casper Onwin, but I'm not quite sure of the actual statistics, so don't take my word for that. Now, into the final sector we go again. Dan Hutz sets a middle sector, which, again, it is quite good, actually. So this could be a quicker lap for Dan Hutz. Does he move himself up into 4th position as he crosses the start-finish line? He does not. He didn't actually improve on his lap there. It was close, but missed out by just under a tenth of a second. Oh, now Danny van der Neert's getting it together. That was a quick first sector from van der Neert. He really does learn a track quite quickly, and in just 9 laps. In fact, that'll be less than 9 laps, because some of those will include abandoned in laps. Then van der Neert has, well, got the first sector sorted at least. That's the good thing about this track being so short. It means the drivers get many laps, and therefore they can learn it quite quickly. Now, where does this lap move Danny van der Neert to? Across the line, P4. Nice. Nice effort there for Danny van der Neert to displace Gerrit de Vries for 4th position. Just seen a fastest second sector of anyone coming in from Laurent Keersmakers, who spins into the inside. He's going into the pits. Wow, he saves it. I tell you what, he may as well not have done, seeing as he's gone into the pits there, but that was just impressive there from Laurent Keersmakers. Let's have a look at that from an onboard view. Oh, hold on, need to get my replay to work. Yeah, let's have a look at this from an onboard view. This is what Laurent Keersmakers would have just seen of that. It takes too much curve on the inside. The car rocks like a ship. He goes over the grass and saves the car. That's actually really, really good from Laurent Keersmakers, who well, he's obviously so far ahead of anyone else in terms of the times. He feels he can fool around a bit, except he can't now because Stefan Roll is within 0.2 of a second of him in that last attempt. So Roll challenging now. Here's Jacob Pegg then in the Enterprise GP car, just showing us this Red Bull Ring circuit. This corner is Reich, before heading through the first sweeping turns, going through the second part of the second sector. That was the Wurf curve you saw to the left. Then the final 2 corners are Rindt and Red Bull Mobile, and once you exit that, you cross the start finish line and have a look at what your time is. That one moves Jacob Pegg up into 7th position. Now we're doing this track in a slightly weird way, seeing as we started halfway around a lap, but that was the Castro Edge turn there. The turn 1, very difficult in profile as it heads uphill, and another uphill corner is this turn 2 at Remus. Was that a quick first sector for Jacob Pegg there? In fact, he's abandoned the lap and gone back to the pit, so we're not going to see the end of that lap. But the only other corner that I had to show you was the one that Sander Palu is going to approach next, which will be the Slosgold corner to the right. It's a very tricky one because the corner has a wide apex and a wide exit. Have a look at that. And you brake downhill as well, so it's very easy to lock up a tyre and just go skidding straight on. I've done it many times. Now we have just 1 minute and 20 seconds left in the qualifying session, so if you're not on a lap now, you're not going to set one. Danny van der Neert just put in a quick first sector, so he continues to fly up the order, does Danny. Through the middle sector he goes. He's just got 3 corners, 4 official to go. Goodness, make your mind up. Now as we head into the final sector, that middle sector wasn't the quickest, but maybe he can salvage something. And then he'll get one more attempt at a lap should his tyres and fuel allow it, but he's messed up the entrance to the lap there, and actually messed up that lap as well. And that was not an improvement from Danny van der Neert. Now, will Stefan Roel challenge for the pole? He is on a quicker lap so far, a quicker lap than his personal best anyway. It's all down to what he can do in these final 2 sectors of the lap. He might actually get another attempt at this rate. Through the final 2 corners he goes. Final corner of the lap. Is it a quicker one? He certainly seems to be on the attack. And Stefan Roel crosses the start-finish line to not go provisional pole, but he gets another chance. So Roel, again going for a lap. It was a quicker lap he set before, but he misses out on the pole just by less than half a tenth of a second. And now he's going to get one more opportunity. The checkered flag is out. Oh, Roel missed the apex there. And he's abandoned the lap. So Roel will not get another chance here. Is anyone else on track? Antonio Frelenovic is. But Frelenovic is not on a quicker lap. One driver I see is Rian Hoekstra. He crosses the line and does not improve his position there. Keeping an eye on the timing sheets for anyone else to improve their laps. Danny van der Neert improves his laps slightly, but it's only good enough for 4th place. Antonio Frelenovic is the only guy still on a lap, but it's not a quick one in the first or second sector. He needs to really hook something together, and judging by that line, that's not it. And as he crosses the line, he's going to stay 3rd here. There he goes. So that means that is qualifying over. It's going to be Laurent Kiersmakers who takes pole by just 0.039 of a second. Followed by Stefan Roel, Antonio Frelenovic, Danny van der Neert, Gerrit de Vries, Dan Hutt, Jacob Pegg, Sander Palu, Mark Fuller, Rian Hoekstra, Roland Hutt. Those are the 11 drivers. We did have 12 initially, but obviously we lost one. We have 11 drivers in that order for the start of the race. We're now going for a brief break before the start of the race. There's going to be a quick warm-up session, and then we will be back with race 1 of 2. So we're back just before the start of the WCS League GP Series round 13, race 1. Hello to everyone watching either live or later on. I see Kevin Peters in the YouTube chat. He says, "Good luck, Mark." That will be referring to Mark Fuller in the ST Racing car. And he says, "We'll be back next season." Okay, see you then, Kevin. So, a very quick lap has put Laurent Keersmakers at the top of the live timing sheet. We're just watching what the track looks like from on board Laurent right now. Of course, in qualifying, it was pretty close towards the end between him and Stefan Roth, but he managed to pull it off and take pole position just about from Stefan Roth. In terms of the statistics this year, Roth has the most wins with 7 race wins from Keersmakers 5, and third place on that list is Danny van der Neert with 3. In terms of pole positions, Laurent Keersmakers has actually edged out Stefan Roth with 6 poles now to Roth's 4, so Keersmakers may be quicker around an individual lap on average than Stefan Roth. In fact, as I just take up, sorry. In fact, in terms of fastest laps as well, Laurent Keersmakers again proving that maybe overlapped the slightly quicker driver with 11 fastest laps to Stefan Roth's 5. So that's quite a difference there. But I reckon that the reason Roth won this championship so convincingly was because of his consistency. Because he, in terms of average start position, in terms of average finish, in terms of all of that, he was dominant, and he also had fewer DNFs. Keersmakers had 3 DNFs, and Roth has had absolutely none so far this series. Keersmakers being the only driver to have driven every race and not retired from any so far this season. Hopefully he can keep that up in the last 2 races of the year. So, in terms of the championship positions still open, we have second place in the Drivers' Championship still up for grabs between Laurent Keersmakers and Danny van der Neert. And then we have a couple of other positions further down that are mathematically up for grabs. But I think realistically we have to be looking at Jacob Pegg and Tjerk de Vries in 5th position in this championship. Jacob Pegg ahead by 6 points, except if you count if you don't count the drop scores, in which place they're only separated by 4 points. Then as well, you have to look for Mark Fuller and Jonathan Holmes. Fuller, of course, accelerating away from Holmes in the championship, as Holmes hasn't been seen since round 4. So that's not really a battle there, but it would be if Holmes was here. Another driver that it's unfortunate that we're not seeing here is Wopke Hoekstra, because he, of course, won one of the races last time out, and he'd have a real chance of moving up a couple of positions in the championship at the end of the series if he was to make this round. Although if he doesn't make it in, then Dan Hutt might well be able to capitalise on that position. He is poised and ready to pounce for that 10th position in the championship. Now the checkered flag has come out at the end of this brief warm-up session, and we're just waiting for the session to change over to the official race session before the start of this. Ring Hoekstra spinning in the pit lane there, hitting the wall. Before the start of this first round, or first race of round 13 of the WCS League GP Series Championship. Now, let's have a look at the Teams Championship here, because the Teams Championship is even more open than the Drivers' Championship here, as first position is up for grabs between RaceView.nl GP and Holland Racing Team. Behind them, we have Satellite Racing Enterprise and Enterprise GP, just separated by 5 points here. They are, or by 4 points in fact. They're very close indeed. Then we have Just for Fun Racing and CM Tech separated by just 7 points. That's another very close one. And actually, ST Racing just behind CM Tech by just 5 points. That's a pairing that's very close in the Megané Championship as well. In fact, Edonis Engineering really not far behind ST Racing, and then Force Cyrec not far behind Edonis. Closely followed by the WCSLeague Open seat, which many people would argue isn't a real team. So, running through the grid order again for this race, we have Lauren Keersmakers at the front of the grid in the number 42 Raceview.nl GP car. Alongside him will be Stefan Roth, and remember, pole position is on the left-hand side or the right-hand side of the grid, which is on the inside for turn 1, giving the driver. Oh, Shelenovic just made it out of the pits there in time, giving the driver who starts second a real chance of taking the lead into turn 1. Antonio Shelenovic lines up in third place. He very nearly didn't make the start of this race. Followed by Danny van der Neert, Gerrit de Vries, Dan Hutt, Jacob Pegg, Sander Palu, Mark Fuller, Ryan Koekstra, and Roland Hutt. Now, in this race, make sure you keep an eye out for the drivers who are battling for the lead of the Constructors' Championship. That is the Raceview.nl GP car of Lauren Keersmakers, the Holland Racing Team car of Stefan Roth, the other Raceview.nl GP car of Danny van der Neert, and the other Holland Racing Team car of Gerrit de Vries. Of course, they are separated by another car, and that's Antonio Shelenovic. He's not fighting for the constructor, or not the constructors. I keep saying constructors, the team's championship, as I should say. But he is fighting for his individual championship position here. So this is the out lap before the start of the race. Lauren Keersmakers will line up at the head of the field. Place your bets in the comments section now. Who is going to win this, and who is going to be the team's champion at the end of this series? Will it be Holland Racing Team, or will it be Raceview.nl GP? Who will win the race? Will it be Keersmakers? Will it be Roel? Will it be Shelenovic? Will it be someone completely separate? It's hard to tell. Now, as we line up on the grid at the start of the race, let's have a look. Let's watch for the lights at the head of the field. Let's watch them from on board Lauren Keersmakers. Watch for that lighting gantry. We're going to have 5 red lights lighting up at the start. All drivers are in position now. And then when they go out, we will be underway for the start of this race. Now, it's a long hold. The lighting gantry obviously not coming on for some reason. Now they start. Go! Green light has shown. And away in the lead goes Lauren Keersmakers. I don't think... Yes, actually, Roel is going to get alongside him. And into the lead into turn 1. Stefan Roel leads the race. There's an accident further behind. Cars spinning around. Who's that facing backwards? Well, Roland Hutt's off, as is Jacob Pegg. He's in the barrier. Roel leads us up towards turn 2. But look at Keersmakers having a look to the inside. He now looks to the outside. That was very, very close. And Shelenovic takes a look up the inside of the Remus curve. I thought he might bite off more than he could chew there, but he didn't quite. And as Keersmakers was trying to fight his way through up the hill, he got very close to taking Roel off as well. And in fact, he locks up, heading down to Schlossgold rather. These drivers need to calm down here to avoid any sort of incident. But it's still Roel leading. Just making sure everyone else has made it through safely. It looks as if they have. So no retirements in the opening couple of corners. But there was, of course, an incident involving Jacob Pegg and Roland Hutt. Through the final corner of the first lap. Can anyone slipstream towards turn 1? Can anyone gain advantage and then go at it up into turn 2? It's a difficult track to overtake at. You only really have Remus and then Schlossgold as opportunities. And after the first lap, it's Stefan Roel leading from Lauren Keersmakers, Antonio Shelenovic, Danny van der Neert, Dan Hutt, Gerrit de Vries, Ryan Koekstra, Mark Fuller, Sander Palu, Roland Hutt, and Jacob Pegg. That's the order, and Lauren Keersmakers got very close to Stefan Roel there. Is anyone going to go side by side? Well, I believe Hoekstra just overtook Mark Fuller there for 7th position. Fuller is coming back at him on the exit. They're going side by side, heading down towards towards turn 3 here, towards Schlossgold. Fuller on the inside, Hoekstra on the outside. And Hoekstra does not get the better run out of the corner there as he gets over the gravel, over the grass, and through goes Sander Palu into 8th position there. That's absolutely not what Hoekstra would have hoped to have gained from that. Now, up the front of the field, let's watch these first few cars streaming through. The gap for the lead as we cross the start and finish line this time round looks like it's going to be pretty short. In fact, it's just 0.6 of a second here. 0.6 of a second separate first and second as Dan Hutt runs over the curb on the outside there. Needs to be careful of that. The order pretty much unchanged after that lap. Of course, we had Sander Palu getting past Rian Hoekstra as Hoekstra attempted to pass Mark Fuller and ended up being repassed and then driving into the gravel. Only putting 2 wheels in the gravel, but it was enough to lose him the momentum and the position. And in the end, he was not able to pull that place. Over the curb goes Stefan Roll there, and through the middle section, the Verf Curve. Still being chased down by Lauren Keersmakers, who was our pole sitter for this event. Through the final corner again. What's the gap after this lap? It looks like it's come down slightly as they cross the start-finish line. Just waiting for it to update. In fact, it's 0.4 of a second, so very, very close still. And after the first 3 laps, it's Roar from Keersmakers, Srelanovic, Van der Neert, Hutt, De Vries, Fuller, Palu, Hoekstra, who runs off. Then it's Hutt, who runs even wider, and Pegg. But I tell you what, Roar really under attack from Keersmakers now. Keersmakers might be slipstreaming Roar as we head towards the Schlossgold. Will he take a look to the inside? He does. He doesn't attempt to move though. It was just speculative, showing himself to the mirrors of Stefan Roar, trying to force him to go defensive when he didn't need to. But Roar wise to it. There's the Verf Curve again. This is the sector of the track where it will be difficult for Keersmakers to keep up with Roar. It's hard to follow in these cars with the aerodynamic turbulence generated by the car in front. But of course that does take a lot of weight off the car behind when you go in a straight line and when you use the slipstream. And Keersmakers still sticking with Roar but not being able to make a move yet. What about up towards turn 2 here? A lot of the time you don't really need to be that close into turn 2. You just need to be brave. And you just need to catch your opponent unawares. But doesn't attempt it now. Probably wise to do not to do that. This, of course, because if Keersmakers goes for a spectacular manoeuvre this early on and takes off his opponent, he stands no chance in this race. You know, it's all about track position, and he loses a lot of that, as he would do later on in the race. But it's not quite so severe, and that's when you need to, or not need to, but that's when it's at least more justified getting desperate. At this stage in the race, you just can't afford to be risking anything. So Keersmakers' job now is just to stick with Roar, try to possibly jump him in the pit stages, and then have another attempt at it later on. If not, just keep the pressure on Roar, force him into a mistake possibly, and just see what happens really. Still plenty of time to go in this race. We're almost 20% of the way through, but that means we still have over 4/5 of it to go. It's a 40-minute race here, and Keersmakers again extremely close there. through the Slosgold. If you can't make a move before then, though, it's all about sticking with your opponent until you get back to the straights. The middle sector won't be good for you. You certainly won't be able to pull a move unless the car ahead makes a pretty significant error. And Royal has just been keeping it clean so far. That's good. A good performance so far from Royal, as we'd expect from our champion this year. Of course, our reigning champion, Wopke Hoekstra, was never here to defend his championship. Well, he was, but he pulled out of doing this championship full time earlier on in the season. He's come back to do a few odd rounds and a few, sometimes not even odd rounds, but races within rounds. Sometimes he'll turn up for race 2 and not race 1. He actually only turned up for race 2 last time out, having not driven the car at the track at all before, and in pouring wet conditions he won the race. So who knows what he could have done if he'd stuck around for the entire season. Certainly would have been a contender for the championship. Maybe he could have taken it to Royal, but decided he didn't like the car and ended up pulling out the championship. I believe next season we will be using a very different car to this. Not many drivers actually liked the GP car, but I'm sure that the server or the league admins have very good things planned for this league. Gearsmaker's making a slight mistake there from the turbulent air from Royal's car there. Just having a bit of a twitch through the rint corner. Kevin Peters says he needs to undercut. Work good with the tyres. He got with 1 lap in Belgium. He gained 2 positions in Belgium with 1 lap. I don't know if Peters means Kevin. I don't know if he means he did it or whether he means Gearsmakers did. But yeah, an undercut, definitely the best way of passing a car at this stage in the race, I'd say. Meanwhile, while we haven't been looking, Dan Hut has gained 4th position from Kjerk de Vries. So Hut is up to 4th. And looking further down the order, we may have had, yeah, Rink Hoekstra, Danny van der Neert. Oh, actually, it's not. It wasn't de Vries that that Hut gained the position to. It was van der Neert who was running 4th, and that's dramatic in terms of the championship. It's a disconnection from Danny van der Neert, and that's a big shame there. Van der Neert, who was trying to help his team to the Constructors' Championship, may have just lost the Constructors' Championship there, as Holland Racing Team will be scoring far more points here. Of course, there is definitely a chance that things will go just as badly for Holland Racing Team, or worse, but for now it's definitely looking good for the unfortunately named HRT team. Just trying to do some mathematics here. So Royal, for winning this race, if he does, would gain 20 points, disregarding any points he may get if he gets the fastest lap of the race, which is currently held, incidentally, by Laurent Gearsmakers. And then Kjerk de Vries would finish 5th, and that would give him a 11 points. So overall, they'd score 31, and then Gearsmakers, for finishing 2nd, would score 17 points. So there you see the difference. And this late in the championship, that's really quite dramatic and really quite costly for the RaceView.NL GP team. You may say that they deserve this championship, as that was just a disconnection from Van der Neert, but luck is all involved in winning a championship. In fact, this is looking good for Kevin Peters, because Peters predicted just before the race that Stefan Roll would win the race and that Holland Racing Team will be champions. Currently, both of those things are looking very, very likely. However, Stefan still under severe pressure from Laurent Gearsmakers, who has not let him get away here. Gearsmakers obviously the quicker driver, just not being able to get past Roll just yet. Maybe he'll need to with the pit stop strategy. A lot of the time what the drivers will do is they'll pit slightly earlier than their opponents, than when they anticipate their opponents to pit. So they get on the fresher tyres sooner and just have a few clean air laps to themselves, and that can often give them the extra time they need to effectively jump their opponents. So maybe Lauren Kearsmakers will be attempting an undercut, as Kevin Peters suggested earlier on. We're not expecting pit stops for a little while yet. Maybe 2 more laps, 3 more laps for the earliest. It'll be around then. But for now, Kearsmakers just needs to think about what he's doing and make sure he's in a position to do so. Looking back through the order, Sando Palo has run slightly wide there. It's still pretty stationary in terms of the order at the minute. There haven't been too many changes here, but it's certainly been a tense race. They've certainly looked like they can change, and as the pit stages are about to be initiated, we might well get the changes in the order that we were expecting. This is the stage in the race where you really have to be clever as well as quick. And also another factor in this race is who can keep control of their tyres, who can, you know, keep their tyres within the optimum wear range for longest. Oh, big slide there for Lauren Kearsmakers. Let's have a look back at that. Yeah, he just lost under braking really and went sideways there. Almost hit Stefan Roll. That would have been very dramatic there. As we're back to real time now. But Lauren Kearsmakers won't have done his tyres any favour there. And won't have done Stefan Roll's heart rate any favour either. As Kearsmakers very nearly runs into the back of... As Lauren Kearsmakers very nearly runs into the back of Stefan Roll. Very close situation. Luckily no contact. Tell you what, if Kearsmakers had been a metre closer, that would have been a rather nasty outcome there. Of course, these two collided last time out at Montreal in the wet in race 2, when they got locked together after Kearsmakers tried to recover a spin at the hairpin. Now, in terms of the gap, it's actually maintained steady at somewhere between 0.6 per second and 0.7 per second there. So Kearsmakers, despite the half spin, really didn't lose much there, and that's well, I'm quite surprised by that actually. Just checking to see that no one pitched on that lap, but they did. Rian Koekstra is our first. Whoa, and he spins. Now that's something we saw him doing in the warm-up session as well. So obviously not learning from his mistakes there. Let's have a replay of that. Yeah, he's just locked up the brakes there. He's tried to brake as late as he can. He's just locked up the brakes and he's spun it into the pit wall there. And actually he hits the wall again as he gets going. That's pretty clumsy there from Rian Koekstra. He'll be going onto the harder compounded tyre. Well, you can't really see when the tyres change, but that was pretty clumsy there from Rian Koekstra, who obviously didn't adjust his brake bias or brake pressure enough to stop the car from spinning after he made exactly the same mistake in the warm-up session. Gap for the lead between 8 and 9/10 of a second as into the pits comes Dan Hutt. Dan Hutt in from 4th position. I don't believe we do have extra tyre components here actually. That's me getting my series mixed up. Dan Hutt stops in his box. Really quite a late pit box he has there. Now, will anyone else pit on this lap? I don't think Roland Hutt's pitted. Actually, surely he has done. Stefan Roth just about to lap Rian Kokstra there. I saw a flash of yellow going through the corner ahead of them. So Kokstra really losing out quite a lot there because of that dodgy pit stop. Now, who will blink first out of the leaders? Will it be Roth? Or will it be Van der Neert? Or not Van der Neert, will it be Keersmakers? What has happened to Keersmakers? He's dropped a long way back. And he pits. So maybe Keersmakers just using up far too much tyre life there. Pitting the car, and I don't think he'll be able to get the undercut here because he really lost a lot of time there. I saw he lost 0.2 of a second on the last lap, but he seemed to drop back even further on this lap. Into the pits behind him comes third place, Antonio Frelanovic. Oh, Keersmakers missed his box. So Keersmakers missed his box, and Frelanovic is having to stack behind him. Now what's happened here is that the game has not generated 2 pit boxes. It's generated Keersmakers' box and Frellanovic's box. Actually, no, that wasn't what happened, because Frelanovic was able to stop behind Keersmakers there. He was able to get the pit stop done, and he's come out right with Lauren Keersmakers here. So the battle for second is on as they're in traffic as they exit here. Sander Palu is actually racing with them. He's on the same lap and therefore does not have to give this place up, and he's going to separate them. Yeah, and Frelanovic has to go to the outside. He's going to spin. Well, he had a big slide there. And that was very, very close. Let's have a look at that. He just wasn't expecting Palu to be moving that much slower, and he had to go to the left-hand side to avoid running into the back of Sander Palu there. That was a close one. And now he's right back with him on the exit here. This is really affecting Antonio Frelanovic. He's not going to get through even here, is he? Yes! Well, he's on the inside and he's got through. Palu doesn't put up much resistance, and wisely so, as Palu knew he wasn't racing these guys effectively. And Stefan Ruhl now pits. He will probably exit with the lead. Down off the jacks he goes. There's no one in sight. There they are. Gerrit de Vries, his teammate, is second, but still hasn't stopped yet. Unless he has, actually. Let me double check this. No, de Vries still hasn't stopped. Oh, is Frelanovic back in again? He is. And that is for a stop-go penalty. So Frelanovic is back in for a stop-go. Maybe he put on the speed limiter too late, and that's a disaster for Antonio Frelanovic, who was on course for a podium here. And Lauren Keersmakers has dropped a very long way behind Stefan Ruhl, who has exited in the lead. And now Keersmakers is stuck by Mark Fuller, who is on the same lap as him and hasn't stopped yet. And that is effectively race over unless there's a mistake for Stefan Ruhl. It's all gone wrong in the pit stages for Lauren Keersmakers. Now Keersmakers goes to the inside of Fuller, into Remus, or into Ralph rather. That was an ambitious move, but he's made it stick. Locking up the tyres, and Fuller wisely not putting up much of a defence there. As Gerrit de Vries now pits from second. So Gerrit de Vries pits the car. And through into second now goes Lauren Keersmakers. Mark Fuller stays out incidentally. He's going for a long stint here. Jacob Pegg pits from 5th, as does Sander Palu from 6th. And I believe everyone has pitted now, as Rian Kokstra is in again, probably with a stop-go. So 2 drivers, I reckon, had stop-goes here. Maybe, with all of that, and that spin there that we saw from Rian Kokstra, he simply didn't get the car slowed down in time. Spinning it across the pit entry line. Whatever the case, Rian Kokstra is exiting the pits in 10th position, which is currently last of the runners due to that extra pit stop. I'm interested to see how Mark Fuller, or where Mark Fuller exits actually, once he pits, because he's going to be the last pit stopper, and this case of alternative strategy might work out well for him if he's made the tyres last. We'll have to see. He will be our last pit stopper, our last scheduled pit stopper. Does he come in this time around? That looks like yes. No, so he stays out again. Fuller really making this stint last. I'm very surprised by this actually. He's going very late into the race. Just going to double check. I'm pretty sure he's pitted. Oh, it's de Vries pits again. So de Vries possibly again with a drive-through or a stop-go rather. That's several people in this race getting caught out by that, and De Vries is going to come out right at the back of the order. Tell you what, that looks longer than a stop-go actually. Maybe there is something properly wrong with that car. Has he damaged it? Going to look back at when he came in. Is that car damaged? Doesn't look like it. So why is this pit stop so long? He's just stopped in the pits. De Vries in real trouble here. So it looks as if we will have lost, at least from the competitive order, one Holland Racing Team car and one Raceview.nl GP car. So maybe it's not so bad for Raceview.nl GP now. Maybe the championship is still open. De Vries is still there, and now he retires. Now what all that was about, I have no idea. And again, oh well, no, finally Mark Fuller pits. So Mark Fuller into the pits, locks up the tyres, but gets the car slowed in time. Mark Fuller finally into the pits. That was one of the longest stints I've ever seen in one of these cars in the dry. Now, where's he going to come out? Through is going to go Ryan Coaster, but he's a lap down. Mark Fuller's a driver who's gained a lot of pace recently, actually, I think. He started the season not really close to the pace at all, and over the last couple of races he's been doing very well indeed. Last time out, scored his best result yet, I believe. I'm just trying to find the evidence to back that up. Indeed, he did. He finished second in race 2 at Montreal, his first ever podium with WCSLeague, and a very, very good result in the wet. And he's come out 5th here, just behind Jacob Pegg and Dan Hurt. In fact, Dan Hurt up into 3rd position now. And Hurt, I'm just going to double check he's pitted. He has. So Hurt driving a very good race so far. He really struggled in the wet last time out. Had several spins and finished a long way down the order, but showed flashes of pace. His best result so far this year has been P6, 6th position, which he's achieved on 2 separate occasions. Once at Zandvoort and once at Spa. And now he's going for definitely his best result so far. Stefan Roll leads the race quite convincingly here from Lauren Keersmakers. Then Dan Hurt in 3rd position, as I said. Jacob Pegg is 4th, followed by Mark Fuller, Sander Palu, Antonio Frelanovic, Roland Hurt, Rian Koekstra, and then 2 retirees, Kjert de Vries and Danny van der Neert. If the field finishes like this, then Royal would have scored 3 more points than Keersmakers. Make that 2, as Keersmakers currently has the fastest lap of the race, meaning that the team's championship will still not swing in favour. Still not in favour of the WCS GP drivers. Holland Racing Team drivers, rather. So, bit of traffic coming up now for Stefan Roth, but that won't be too much of an issue for him. Lauren Keersmakers currently running in 2nd position here in the first Raceview.nl GP car. The other one being Danny van der Neert, retired from this race earlier on. This team is still in contention to win the team's championship this season. They will only lose 2 points to Holland Racing Team in this race if they finish like this, meaning the gap between the 2 teams will be, let me work this out, just 26 points. Well, still 26 points, and that's pretty realistically unassailable in race 2 unless something goes dreadfully wrong for Raceview.nl GP. who have been the superior team as a whole this season. It's not really that Gerrit de Vries has been letting Holland Racing Team down. That's not really the case at all, because he's definitely a quick driver. And he's brought home podiums and I think possibly a win. Let me double check that. No, he brought home one podium, in fact, which was at Suzuka. So he hasn't been the quickest of drivers, but he hasn't really let the team down, because he scored points on every occasion but race 2 at Montreal. So he's been a very consistent driver and a great addition to the team. I'm sure they will admit that. And although he's not as quick as Keersmaker's Van der Neert or Ruhl, he's certainly not out of place up the front of the field. So 20% of this race remaining. Gerrit de Vries actually saying, in his opinion, he did let the Holland Racing Team down. I wouldn't say so. This was only a second DNF this year, so you brought home points on pretty much every occasion. And although you haven't been the quickest driver, as I was just saying, you certainly weren't slow. And that podium's more than I've ever got in WCS League, even though there are more drivers in the Megané series. So. Why actually did you retire from this race? I'm speaking to Gerrit in the chat, by the way. He can't reply with his voice unless he wants to drop in for an interview, kind of between the two races. But if you can just update us in the chat there, why you actually retired there? Oh, he says because I ran out of fuel. Okay, so that's a big shame, I'm afraid. So Gerrit de Vries there running out of fuel, and I'm afraid that is a bit of a letdown this late on in the race, this late on in the championship rather. Holland Racing Team could definitely have benefited from this race, but you know, stuff like that happens. I've certainly made mistakes like that in the past. In fact, in the last WCS League Megané race, I ran out of fuel coming towards the line at the end of race 1. And ended up losing out on several positions due to that. I finished the race after creeping across the line, but only scored 1 point in that. And I must say that was very embarrassing. But it happens. So, not long now to go in the race. Less than 15% of it remaining. We're just watching Jacob Pegg as he approaches Rian Kokstra to put him a lap down. Fingers crossed this goes cleanly. It should do. Rian doesn't tend to cause any issues as a back marker. And Jacob Pegg will be getting a nice slipstream from him down the straights. Yes, he'll be affected by his turbulent air in the corners, but not as much as he could be if Rian gives way to him in a safe manner. In fact, Rian's run slightly off the road there. And as he rejoins, this would be a great time to give way. Indeed, he does give way to Jacob Pegg there. Pegg goes through. He's already in 4th position. And now he's past Rian Kokstra just to make sure of that. Here's Mark Fuller in 5th position. Of course, scored his first podium last time out. And if Wupke Hoekstra hadn't joined late in the race weekend, Fuller could have got a win. But there's could have and there's did. And this is a could have situation. Mark Fuller P8 in this championship. Currently racing for the ST Racing squad, who are very close rivals with the CM-Tech squad in both of our WCS League championships, this and the Megané series. I know because I race for CM-Tech in the Megané series. So I must say, I'm I consider myself to be a rival of ST Racing, but as a commentator, it's great to see the rivalry from an outside point of view. Now onto another lap goes Mark Fuller. He sees Ring up the road. Earlier this season they would have been fighting for positions, but Fuller's had a real burst of speed. Antonio Shrelanovic currently running in sixth position here. That's a pretty disappointing race so far from Antonio. Actually, not really that bad. It's just sort of what could have been if he hadn't had to make 2 pit stops for some reason. 2 trips through the pits. Fastest lap in this race, incidentally, is going to go to Lauren Kiersmakers. I can't see anyone going faster this late in the race. So Kiersmakers definitely seems to have wrapped up this point here, which again is going to go towards the team's championship in favour of Raceview.nlgp. Although, of course, that's not wrapped up yet because we have one more race to go, which is a partially reversed grid, which should be interesting. And here comes Antonio Shrelanovic running slightly wide and over the grass there. We're getting very, very close now to the end of this race. Very close indeed. There's Sander Palu in the Force Cyrek car. Of course, Force Cyrek's main driver this year has been Jarek Janet, but Janet hasn't turned up for the last couple of rounds. Now, Stefan Roll has just started the final lap of this race. There's no one near him. The gap is 16.6 seconds at the front of this field. Stefan Roll has this well and truly under control here, as he has done for this entire championship. This, when he brings it home, will be his 8th victory this year from the 25 races that we'd have had after this one. So a very decent percentage there for a one make category. Stefan Rowe, after this corner, only has right-handers to go now before he brings home this race 1 victory. 2 corners now, and Stefan Rowe for Holland Racing Team is going to attempt to keep the team's championship alive, and indeed it does mathematically stay alive. But well, ignoring that for the second, that was a dominant performance from Stefan Rowe, who wins race 1 here. And although it hasn't been the greatest result for the team rather, that's a great result for Stefan Rowe, who wins his 8th race of the series. Lauren Kiersmakers is going to cross the line in 2nd place. What could have been if he hadn't let his tyres go off? Whoa, big spin after the finish line. You're not technically allowed to do that. Actually, you are. This is WCS League. What am I talking about? Dan Hurt claims a great 3rd position there. That's his best result of the series and his first podium finish. A good result there. A great result, in fact, for Dan Hurt, who scores a podium finish for Just for Fun Racing. Jacob Pegg is going to be in 4th position here. In fact, is that Jacob Pegg's best result? I'm just going to have to double check that. No, he's had 2 podiums. One at Zandvoort and one at Barcelona. Both 3rd places. Mark Fuller was 5th, followed by Antonio Shrelanovic in 6th position. 7th is going to be Sander Palu here. And he's going to be the last driver who finishes on the lead lap of this race. There he goes, and that's every driver across the line. So Stefan Roll has won to round off his championship in style. Of course, we still have 1 race to go, but that's a good start to his last round of the championship, showing why he's been the dominant driver for this entire series. Lauren Kiersmakers is 2nd, followed by Dan Hurt, Jacob Pegg, Mark Fuller, who is lying in a pile of someone else's carnage at turn 1, Antonio Shrelanovic, Sander Palu, Roland Tutt, who is the owner of said debris, Rian Koekstra, and then 2 retirements in Gerrit de Vries and Danny van der Neer. 2 pretty big drivers there who retired from this race. Van der Neer through no fault of his own. De Vries through running out of fuel, I'm afraid. So that was the end of race 1. And now we're going for a quick break here before race 2, a 20-minute race with a reverse grid. Now, I'm not sure. I don't think Gerrit de Vries is going to be able to start on pole position here, seeing as he didn't finish race 1. I'm not quite sure how it works if 10th place didn't finish, because it's normally the top 10 who are reversed. Maybe de Vries will be starting from the reverse grid pole here. I'm not actually sure. If not, it'll be Rian Koekstra, and then Roland Hurt, Sander Palu, Antonio Srelanovic, Mark Fuller, Jacob Pegg, Dan Hutt, Lauren Keersmakers, Stefan Roll, and then either Gerrit de Vries or Danny van der Neer. Van der Neer, we know, will be lining up at the back of the grid for this round. So a big shame there for those drivers. And, well, now it's time for a quick break before race 2. See you then. Scratch that, we are not going for a quick break because we have a driver to interview here, and probably an extremely happy driver for the first time on the podium in a WCS League race, and that is Dan Hutt for the Just for Fun racing team. Hi Dan.
Hi.
So Dan, your first podium with WCS League, I bet that feels good.
Yeah, of course. It's just unbelievable. I saw that Danny retired from the race, and then I saw Antonio lost a lot of time. So I thought Antonio may have damage, but then he kept on the pace. And then I saw his pit stop was very long, and then I knew I just could end P3. And then I saw Jacob. I had a lead on Jacob for 20 seconds, I believe. So that was a lot. So I'm very happy with this result.
Very, very good to hear, and it was a good performance as well. Pretty clean the whole way through. We know that you've had a couple of incidents so far this year, but do you think that's definitely something you've been improving?
Yeah, of course. The incidents at the Megané race helped me just to learn on how to overtake better and how to defend better. Because if I still performed like that, I would never get this podium. So that helped me a lot.
Very good to hear, and a very good performance. So you're just preparing for race 2 now. What do you think your goal is for this race? Because you'll probably be starting from quite a way back here. So where do you think realistically you're aiming?
I think the top 6 should be possible. So let's aim for that.
Well, good luck, and we will see you after the race, I expect.
Yeah. Good luck.
User left your channel.
Well, I don't know why he was wishing good luck to me. All I have to do is sit here and talk about what I'm seeing. But anyway, that's Dan Hutt there. And we do actually have another driver in the server who wasn't in race 1. I saw Kevin Peters debating whether he should race in race 2, even though he's not had much practice yet. And he is indeed in the server now. So maybe we're going to be seeing a 12th driver in this race. He hasn't driven a lap yet, so let's not announce that too soon. But yeah, good to see you on the grid, Kevin. And yeah, get out there and practice, I suppose. So now I will be going for a quick break, and I'll be right back for race 2, our reverse grid race, in not long at all. And I just showed you the wrong Drivers' Championship. So not long now until the start of race 2 of 2 here at the WCSLeague GP series from the Red Bull ring. Our Drivers' Championship has already been wrapped up. The Constructors' Championship is still open, but it would take something going wrong now for one of the WCSLeague or one of the Race4.nl GP cars for Holland Racing Team to wrap up the Constructors' Championship, or the Teams' Championship rather, as none of these teams are constructors. So, less than a minute to go now with the warm-up session before the start of this race. And then we will be underway for our final race of the series. It's been a long one. Of course, only half a year, but it's felt longer than it actually has been. It started all the way back in January, I believe. And ever since that, they've been racing through 13 different tracks. And we've seen a number of different drivers in this series so far this year. We've seen a total number, actually. Let me just check this, of I think something like 50 drivers over the course of the year. Double checking that now. When my standings load, of course. Always an interesting part of the weekend, waiting for the standings to load. Here we go. It was actually 38, so we've had 38 drivers who have driven in this series at some point this season. Several of them winners, actually. We've had 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different race winners throughout the course of this series. Those being Stefan Roll with 7 wins, Lauren Keersmakers, or with 8 now, Lauren Keersmakers with 5, Danny van der Nit with 3, Wopke Hoekstra and Niels Brugman with 2, although those drivers didn't make the full series, and in fact all of these other winners I'm about to read out also didn't make the full series, which is why they didn't do better. Those include Matthew Williams, Jonathan Holmes and Wesley Stefano. Now the warm-up session has come to an end. We're just preparing for the start of the race here. Tell you what, Kevin Peters is not exactly quick, but he's a lot closer to the rest of the field than I thought he'd be with that much practice. That's a good start for Kevin, but of course now we've got the real test coming up, the actual race. So it is Gerrit de Vries on pole, despite the fact he didn't finish the last race. So it's going to be Gerrit de Vries on pole after he retired from race 1 due to a refuelling issue. Following him will be Rian Hoekstra, then it's Roland Hutt, Sander Palu, Antonio Fralanovic, Mark Fuller, Jacob Pegg, Dan Hurt, Laurent Keersmakers, Stefan Roel, our race 1 winner, and then Danny van der Neert and Kevin Peters, who didn't make it into to race 1. Those are the 12 drivers who are about to take to the grid here. I believe every driver has made it out. Yeah, no spaces free. So we are ready for the start of the formation lap here. Gerrit de Vries is going to lead us away in the Holland Racing Team car. Watch out again for our team's championship runners. Gerrit de Vries in first. And then Laurent Keersmakers in 9th. Stefan Roel in 10th. And Danny van der Neert in 11th here. Also, in terms of second in the Drivers' Championship, that was one that was open between the two RaceView.nl GP drivers. That is quite clearly now going the way of Laurent Keersmakers. I don't believe there's anything that... I think mathematically that's sealed now, actually, so I don't think there's anything that Danny van der Neert can actually do about it. I think that Laurent Keersmakers has already claimed that. I'd say deservedly. Although van der Neert has been a formidable contender season long here. Tell you what, you have to give it to Laurent Keersmakers. He's been out of the game for a very long time, and he's come back into to sim racing and just really taken to it again. This was his first sim racing series in a while, as far as I know. Of course, he was winning GP Super League races 10 years ago now. Over 10 years ago. So, onto the starting grid goes Gerrit de Vries at the front of the field. Whoa! My word! Two drivers just almost lost it on the start-finish straight. Roland Hutt did lose it. He's in the wall. Now, that was a close situation. Let's look back at that. Because initially we had Rian Hoekstra going very, very sideways, spinning up the rear wheels and going sideways. And then behind him, Roland Hutt swerves to avoid Gerrit de Vries, locks up the tyre and goes into the wall. So a couple of cars with ruined tyres before the race has even begun. Roland is still not in the right direction. Whoa, manic start. And Hutt can't even get it. Hutt can't get it turned around. Well, that's dramatic, and he's just been embarrassed by his son there, who has pulled into the... or gone past him there. Well, that's very embarrassing there for Roland Hutt and Rian Hoekstra. Hoekstra maybe not so much. But now all of the drivers are in position for the start of this race. Let's watch the starting gantry from on board Gerrit de Vries, who is going to start from pole position here. Will second place benefit down into turn 1 again? It's Rian Hoekstra starting second. Here come the lights. Go! We're away! De Vries gets the best start. Roland Hutt coming through from behind. He's going up to second, I think, if he can hold it in turn 1. He doesn't. Oh, contact for the lead. Hoekstra and De Vries both spin in front of the pack. Hoekstra, well, somehow they didn't get collected. That was very, very close. And Antonio Fralanovic leads the race after De Vries was unfairly tipped around there, you must say, by Ryan Kokstra. Keersmakers now has already fought his way through to second. He's going around the outside of Antonio Kralinovic. He's up from 9th on the grid to 2nd already in all of the carnage. And he's going for the lead. Can he have gained 9 positions, or 8 positions rather, in the space of 3 corners? Not quite. Now watch Stefan Roll, who's right with him. Dan Hurt gets sideways on the grass. Oh, contact behind. Roland Hurt spins again. And Jacob Pegg's involved as well. So a manic start here. And the order is almost as it was at the end of race 1. Not quite, of course, but it's looking a lot more like it than I thought it would. And at the end of the first lap, it's going to be Antonio Kralinovic who leads us around here. Kralinovic leads us at the end of the first lap, followed by Lauren Keersmakers, Stefan Roll, Danny van der Neert, Dan Hurt. And then it's Sander Palu, Jacob Pegg, Kevin Peters, Stuart de Vries, Mark Fuller, and Ryan Kokstra has stopped, and we've lost Roland Hurt. Up the hill we go. Kralinovic being slipstreamed now by Keersmakers and Roll. Keersmakers not quite close enough to attack this time around. Of course, last time out, Keersmakers had the situation of doing this to Stefan Roll, just sticking on his tail and waiting for him to make a mistake. Now he's doing it to Kralinovic. He's going up the inside into Slosgold. They make contact side to side, and Keersmakers gets well, he's lost a lot of momentum out of the corner, and through goes Stefan Roll into 2nd. So that move did not work there for Lauren Keersmakers, and Stefan Roll has gone up into 2nd position. Let's have a look at that. So on board with Stefan Roll, he just sees Lauren Keersmakers darting through up the inside of Antonio Kralinovic. They make contact. Keersmakers gets a bad exit, and through goes Stefan Roll. Now, yeah, there you see him in the mirrors. Now let's watch that from on board Lauren Keersmakers as he dives up the inside of Antonio Kralinovic. Slight side-to-side contact there. And it's almost like he just didn't get the power down. Now Kralinovic would have been... well, that would have raised his heart rate, definitely, seeing Keersmakers coming through on the inside and then making contact with him. But somehow he's kept the lead there. Now what happened to the 2 drivers who retired from the race? Well, Roland Hurt, of course, we saw him involved in this incident here at the Slosgold. Oh, big contact. And it looks as if he lost the engine. He did indeed. And then Ryan Kokstra retired later on in the lap. Did he have a further incident? Or did he just pull off? He just pulled off. So that's the end of the championship for Ryan Kokstra there. So it's Kralinovic now leading from Rowe. While I'm on the topic of replays, let's have a look back at what happened into turn 1 involving our leaders, de Vries and Hoekstra. Well, here's de Vries. Hoekstra just comes from far too far back and tips de Vries into a spin. Somehow there wasn't more carnage there. I'm really not sure how. And I want to see the start on board with some of the other guys who benefited from this as well. So for a start, let's have a look at Antonio Kralinovic, who came through from 5th on the grid. And he's now leading this race. Let's see how that happened. Well, you see he's already got past Palu, who had a bad start there. Now as he goes around the outside, there's contact up ahead. And he takes very good avoiding action to the outside there. Very good indeed. Now here's Stefan Roll coming from 10th on the grid, slotting his way past Keersmakers and Hurt up the inside. Look at that. Dan Hurt, that is. And now slotting his way through 2 more cars. There's the carnage. Goes to the outside. Amazing. That was a fantastic section of corners there from Stefan Roll. And after the first 3 laps, it's Kralinovic leading from Roll, from Keersmakers, van der Neer, Hurt, Pegg, Peters, Palu, Fuller, de Vries, and then the 2 retirements. So Stefan Roll chasing Antonio Kralinovic, who makes a mistake, runs wide. Kralinovic touches the grass. Will Roll get a better run down the start-finish straight? Kralinovic has to go defensive after that mistake. Roll to the outside. Does he outbrake Kralinovic? Or does he get forced off the line? It's the latter. He gets forced off the line. Now watch Keersmakers. He's still side by side with Kralinovic, but surely you can't gain that. Not legally anyway. Kissmaker's attacking. They're going to go 3 wide up towards Remus. This is very, very tense. And as they turn in, Srelenovic somehow keeps the lead. Brilliant driving from Srelenovic there to keep the lead. And great from Raw as well to not lose a further position to Lauren Kissmakers and to not gain a position illegally there off the road. Now he challenges again and there's slight wheel-to-wheel contact between the two of them. Very close. Raw and Kissmakers side by side into Reich. Actually, that's Remus. The first turn 2 is Reich, I believe. There's the Verf curve. And it's still Srelenovic, Raw, Kissmakers, Van den Eert. And Van den Eert is really catching them from the back of the grid here. Now, Van den Eert will be absolutely fired up after race 1. He'll be eager to go for it here. And of course, last time we saw race 2 being won from the back of the grid by Wopke Hoekstra. This time, Van den Eert will be hoping to repeat his feat. Still extremely close up front. We didn't have the manic 3-way tussle into turn 2 as we did on the previous lap, but still very close. Very unpredictable as well. You can't really tell who's going to win this at this point. It could be any of 4 drivers. Of course, in the unlikely occasion that they all take each other off, the driver to benefit from that would be Dan Hurt. Chances of that are extremely low though, and I hope I just haven't put the commentator's curse on it, but let's hope that doesn't happen. Hello to 182 Craigie in the YouTube chat there. Just joining us for race 2. This is the final race of the championship this year, so good that you're making it in for this one and seeing the end. I always find the final part of the championship very gripping, you know, as everything's being sorted out in terms of the order, and as, you know, the series comes to an end, you almost get a sense of nostalgia looking back at the series that is... Oh, never mind! I'm cutting away from my nostalgia as Raw is going around the outside of Srelenovic. It looks as if he was too far back, but he's gone for it and he's taken the lead. A brilliant move for Stefan Raw there, who goes through into the lead of the race there on lap 7. So, a great move for Stefan Raw, but Srelenovic is not done with him yet, and he tries to go right back around the outside, gets a better run out of the corner, but has a slight twitch there, and Stefan Raw will keep the lead. Srelenovic really needed to keep an overlap, and around goes Kissmakers. He's hit Antonio Srelenovic, and he's spun the car around. Doesn't get connected, luckily, but he's lost a fair few positions there. He's down into 5th. Almost loses 6th there to Jacob Pegg. Let's have a look back at that whole tussle there. So, let's have a look at first the move for the lead between Stefan Raw and Antonio Srelenovic. This is what Raw would have seen. He went to the outside heading up towards turn 2 and just outbraked Srelenovic around the outside. Srelenovic did a good job not to tag the rear end of Raw's car there. That could have been so much worse. There you see it again. Srelenovic just has to let it go there. Raw's got the move. They so nearly bang wheels. Now if I fast forward a bit, here's the attempted go again from Srelenovic. Has a slight twitch on the exit though. And now he's just going to get assaulted from behind. Well, there goes Kissmakers. There's an argument that Kissmakers made his way up far enough alongside, although I take it Srelenovic is not going to be part of that argument. No, I tell you what, that's from too far back. He didn't get alongside the cockpit at all. And Kissmakers loses out in all of that through his own fault, in my opinion. Not that I'm a steward. And Van den Eert there very, very nearly got taken out in all of that, but gains 3rd position. So, it's Raw leading after that sort out from Srelenovic and Van den Eert, and then Hut and Kissmakers in 5th. Kissmakers, though, will not be done with this yet. He'll be hungry to gain that position back. Van der Neer is close to Kralanovic. He's definitely gaining on him. And also behind Hut, Keersmakers and Peg is a battle we have to keep an eye on as well. We're over half of the way through the race now. Goodness, this is going quickly. The championship is almost over here. And if they finish as they are now, it will be a championship victory for RaceView.nlgp. That's the team which comprises of Danny van der Neert and Lauren Keersmakers, who will claim a third and a fifth if they finish like this. Something tells me though that the order is not done yet. There's still plenty of action to come in this race. A couple more twists I expect. And Danny van der Neert is still chasing down Antonio Kralanovic. However, the gap did come out slightly on that lap. Kralanovic's lap was about 1.5 tenths of a second quicker than Danny van der Neert there. I think... Oh, there has actually just been a change of position, and we're very close for 4th position there between Hut and Keersmakers, but that's not the position that changed. That was further back. I believe Fuller just overtook Palu. But I want to have a look now at 4th position as Keersmakers attacks Hut to the inside. Keersmakers on Dan Hut. Goes through but leaves his braking too late, and a great switchback there from Dan Hut. This is a new Dan Hut we're seeing today. Now, when will Keersmakers be able to have another attack at it? He'll be pretty disappointed that that move there didn't work, as he wants to get back onto the tail of his opponent ahead of him. But I think it's a bit too late for that now. He just needs to attack for this 4th position. Ooh, bit of a slide there. Meanwhile, it's close again for 2nd, but look at Peg going for Keersmakers. Peg got a much better exit to the corner. He's gone to the inside there, and Jacob Peg is alongside Lauren Keersmakers as we head up the hill. He's going to have the inside line here for 5th position. So Peg gets the inside for turn 2, and out of nowhere, Jacob Peg doesn't quite get the position, does he? It's very hard to tell who's going to get it. They're still side by side on the exit. He was nowhere before this. Then Keersmakers made a slight mistake out of the final corner, and Peg was able to capitalise. And they're still side by side, and they make slight contact. Keersmakers went sideways. Peg went slightly sideways as well, but Peg is through. Jacob Peg through into 5th position, and a good aggressive fight there between the two of them. Tell you what, Stefan Roll has been and gone here. We've seen this so many times this series, where he's got through to the lead and just accelerated away. This would be another double victory if he can pull it off from 10th on the grid. And that would be incredible to see. But we've seen it so many times with Stefan Roll. Now, what was the gap for 2nd position? It was 8 tenths of a second there. And we're very close, actually, for 5th still. Between Keersmakers and Peg. Yeah, that's very close. Keersmakers right on the back of Peg as they head up the hill. And towards Slosgold. Will he have an attempt here? I don't think he's quite close enough. No, he's not. He's going to have to wait for another opportunity. Maybe not until turn 2 next lap. So, looking through the order, it's Stefan Roll leading us around, followed by Antonio Kralanovic and Danny van der Neert. Those two are still locking horns. Then it's Dan Hut, followed by another battle, which is Jacob Peg versus Lauren Keersmakers. Kevin Peters has had a good race. He's up to 7th, despite absolutely no practice before this race. He had about 5 or 6 laps. Mark Fuller, his teammate, is following him, followed by Sander Palu, Gerrit de Vries, and then out of the race, Ryan Koekstra and Roland Hut. The battle for second is separated here by 0.7 of a second, but the battle for fifth by just 4. Kissmakers might be close enough to attack this time round, not quite. But if he can get a good exit to this corner, the Sloss Gold is always possible. We're on the penultimate lap of the race here. Penultimate lap of the whole championship, in fact. We still don't know quite what car we're going to be racing next year. That will be announced, I expect, in the Megané race next week, and if not, just after it. But whatever the case, this has been a slightly controversial championship, one with many drivers coming and going, and not many drivers really liking the car. But still, pretty entertaining show they put on every other Wednesday, and it's been a joy to commentate on. Now, how's the second place battle doing? Still Shelanovic ahead of Van der Neert, and fifth is definitely the battle to be looking for. But we are on the final lap of the championship now. Stefan Roll leading us around as all manner of fighting happens behind him. Keersmaker's still not close enough to peg. Surely he has to make his move soon. And surely Van der Neert needs to make his move on Shelanovic. I think it might be too late now. That might have been his last opportunity. Let's watch Stefan Roll now, as he has 3 corners to go until he can deliver another double victory. Stefan Roll coming through the final corner of the lap of the championship, and Stefan Roll is going to win a double victory here at the Red Bull Ring. Roll ranked off his championship in the best possible way by winning 2 out of 2. Fantastic result from Stefan Roll. Utterly brilliant drive all season long, and second place there was Antonio Shelanovic. Third was Danny Van der Neert. Watch Roll doing donuts there on the outside. Van der Neert joins him. They're going to make contact. Bang! There they go. Fourth place was Dan Hurt, actually, so a great performance again. Fourth place for Dan Hurt. Fifth was Jacob Pegg. They're all doing donuts in the runoff area. Sixth, Lauren Keersmakers. He was second in the championship. Sander Palu was 7th. Mark Fuller was 8th. Then it was Kevin Peters and Character Freeze into the wall. That was brilliant. Then 2 retirements, unfortunately, in Rian Kogstra and Roland Hurt. They retired after the very first lap of this race. But look at this spectacle of Stefan Roll and our other drivers doing donuts at turn 1 here. Well deserved. A great championship. And I expect it's going to be a little while before we get everyone in for the interviews, which are going to be next on the programme. And we have a lot to talk about at the end of this championship here. Stefan Roll, another double victory. Fantastic performance. That was actually only his second double victory of the season so far. His first was at Suzuka in the pouring rain, and he scored another one there. This, possibly one of his best performances yet. Didn't score pole here, but that's not what matters, even though you do lose 1 point for not scoring pole. So, Stefan Roll won the race, followed by Antonio Shelanovic, Danny Van der Neert, Dan Hurt, Jacob Pegg, Lauren Keersmakers, who seals second in the championship, Sander Palu, Mark Fuller, Kevin Peters, Jarek de Vries, Rian Kogstra, and Roland Hurt. And in all of that, RaceView.nl are the team's champion, with Danny Van der Neert and Lauren Keersmakers claiming the team's championship there, with 2nd and 6th positions. A great, well, 3rd and 6th positions. A great performance, and now we just have to wait a couple of seconds for the start of the interviews.
User was moved to your channel.
So we're going to bring in our first interviewee here, who is going to be our drivers champion and our double race victor here, Stefan Roll. Hi, Stefan.
Hey, Josh. How are you doing?
Yeah, very good. And I take it you're doing very well as well, seeing as you've just got your second double victory of the season. Surely there's no better way than that to round off your championship winning year.
Yeah, absolutely. This was two really good races, I think. I don't know, maybe it's just the pressure that's not there anymore, but the races themselves just went perfectly. So race one, Laura had pole position by a very little margin, but then I started to race him, and I think he made a little mistake, and I could. I just had a better start, and I could take him there. And then he was behind me all the time, so I just had to make sure that I didn't make any mistakes. I was saving tires all the way, and then just before the pit stop, I don't know what happened with him, but I think he locked somewhere, and then he had like a 2-second gap, and after that I could do a pit stop safely and just drive it home, and very comfortably. It was a great race.
Fantastic, and race 2 as well. You really had to thread your way through the carnage there at the start, but surely finding yourself in second after turn 1 was quite a surprise there.
Yeah, race 2 was a bit crazy. Of course, starting from P10, you always, if with reverse grid, you always, that there might be something ahead of you. In midfield, saw it really tight and lots of battles, but I had a really good start of the line, and already before turn 1 I was past Laurent. I just really sliced through the middle there, but then I saw some people hitting each other in turn 1, and then I just decided, okay, let's get out of here and move across the off-road stuff. But then I returned to track, and I think I was P3 at that point, behind Tonio and Laurent. And I think Danny also joined the pack there for a while. From P1 to P4 was really close. Amazing fighting. I don't know if it was visible on the broadcast, but was some of the best fighting we've had all year, with the 4 of us side by side. 3 corners at the straight next to each other, and then making it out of the next corner with the 3 of us was really good. Made a very nice pass on Antonio there, ran the outside, and he tried to get me back in the next turn. I had to really defend, but luckily I made it stick and could drive it home from there. Great race.
So talk us through the season as a whole. Surely it's been a real fairy tale ride for you, and you have really dominated this championship here, claiming it several rounds early. How did you do it, really?
I think most importantly, consistency. If you look at my my race shoe team, Laurent and Danny, 2 very good drivers, and they've won a lot of races as well. But I told them before the race, I said, I'm just so happy that you're not one person, because then I would be screwed this season. I mean, 2 really fast guys, and you've seen Laurent really improve the second half of the year. But consistency was key, and I think there were a couple of key races for me that really helped me get the lead. First, I think Suzuka in the wet, where I won 2 races. And then I think when I sealed it in Montreal, that wet race felt really special to me, and then that really helped me, I think, winning the championship.
Well, it was a great season, and well done for everything you did this year.
Thanks, and I'd like to thank Dayton and my team manager, Holland Racing Team, for giving me the seat last year. He really motivated me to get back to sim racing, and I'd like to thank him for that.
Very good. Well done, and we'll see you next season, I expect.
For sure. Thanks, Joe. Thanks for the broadcast.
User was moved to your channel.
Yeah, okay. So I brought in a bunch of you at the same time here because, I'm afraid Dan Hurt, you're going to have to wait a bit, seeing as you had an interview at the end of race 1. But first of all, we're going to speak to our team's champion, which is RaceView.nl and that consists of Danny van der Neert and Laurent Kiersmakers. Hi, guys.
Hey.
So, a great season for both of you, really. Yes, you didn't clinch the Drivers' Championship. That went the way of Stefan Rohr. But in terms of the Teams' Championship, surely delivering that today must feel very good.
Yeah, it was basically a little bit lucky because the first time since I started with sim racing, I had a disconnection, so I felt quite bad. First race. Because in all the years since 2012, I never had a disconnection. So I'm happy with the result in the second, with third. Almost second, but yeah, Antonio was a little bit quicker and the dirty air was quite high here.
I should have been more clear there. That was Danny van der Neert there who answered the question. So we'll start with you, Danny.
Oh, sorry.
That's fine. As you said, you had a disconnection in the first race, but you really came through from the back and really challenged the guys at the front of the order in race 2, ending up on the podium.
Yeah, definitely. It was. I avoided every trouble in the first corner, and after the first corner, I was already 6th. And after that, I just keep my head calm, and it was. Good race. I mean, in the terms of practice, it was a great race. Because I did my first laps in the quali.
Yeah, we saw that. You actually got up to speed really quite quickly there. That was really quite impressive.
Yeah, but it were my first laps off this track because I'm watching World Cup a lot, and last week I was in Belgium, so no time to test. But it's always fun to drive here.
All right. We'll be coming back to you in a minute when discussing the actual team's championship. But moving on now to Laurent Kiersmakers. Hello, Laurent.
Hello. How are you?
Yes, very good. And you as well. You just clinched 2nd place in the Drivers' Championship. Talk us through your race Wednesday.
Well, yeah, for the first race, obviously I had pole position, so the qualifying was quite nice. But then I was a bit surprised by the lights at the start, so I lost the first position to Stefan. Then I was able to follow him until the first series of pit stops, but I made a mistake before the pit stop. I also had to go in reverse and lost quite a few seconds. Then from that point on, I was in a solid 2nd place, I'd say. But then also during the second stint, I had some troubles with a back marker, almost spinning, also ruining the tires. So in the end, 2nd place was a bit lucky, I think.
Well, you claimed 2nd at the end, and race 2, I can't really say the same about that. Started pretty well, but then went a bit pear-shaped. Talk us through that.
Yes, so the first corner there was some collisions in front of me, but this time I was quite lucky in the first corner, not like some other races during this season. So I came out of the first corner in 2nd place, I think, and Stefan in 3rd place. Then there was some fight with Antonio and with Stefan. This was also quite a nice battle. I think also in the 2nd corner in lap 3 or 4, I think we were heading into the corner with the 3 of us. This was really some very nice battle. But then I got overtaken by Stefan and by Antonio. And then I was a bit surprised by an early braking of Antonio and almost collided together. But I almost spinned again. So then I think I dropped back to the 4th position. And then there was even a fight for the 5th and the 6th position.
But at the end of all of that, of course, you claimed 2nd in the championship. You must be pretty pleased with that, seeing as you've been away from competitive sim racing for, how many years?
I think the last race was in 2012, but this was also occasionally FSR. The last official race I did must be like 2010, I suppose.
Wow, so you've come back and really jumped straight back on the pace, I see.
Well, in the beginning of the season, I had some troubles. In Dubai, I had a pace, but then I didn't have the racecraft, let's say. So in the first 4 races of the season, I had quite some troubles. Of course, it were not only troubles because of me. I also had some lag issues, also a bad PC, and so on. But these troubles were solved, let's say, in the mid-season, and from there on, I could achieve quite nice results.
Now, looking back to the teams championship with both of you, actually, Danny and Laurent, you've won that, and by quite a few points in the end as well. It was less close than we thought it was going to be. Talk us through how it was from a team's point of view. Do you do much sort of training and setup work together, and what were the most important factors to your victory?
Yeah. Go first.
Yes, Danny.
Okay, if we start with
so maybe in the first part of the season, I think the results from Danny were the most important factor. He had a lot of second places, a few first places, I think. So there the team had some solid points, while I was still struggling to get on pace. Then in the second part of the season, I think that we more relied on my results, I'd say, but also Dani's results, which were quite nice the last two events. So I think altogether it was a strong first part of Dani, strong second part of me, and then the last few races were also very strong by Dani.
Yeah, and also working together as a group, also during the races, fight, but then fair. I mean, don't hit each other, or try not to hit each other, and just when the one is faster, let him by and follow, because that's better, because then you have more points and results, and you can follow the guy in front. So, but for me, it was basically the first half of the season, basically the old mod, that suits me the best, because I lost some motivation during the second half of the season because I didn't like the version. That's I was struggling with tires and yeah, the behavior of the car for me was like a tank. So sometimes it was a real struggle, but last races was the car was feeling actually quite well, and
well, it certainly ended up well for your team. So well done to both of you, and I hope to see you back next season.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So those were our team's champions there. The RaceView.nl GP team of Danny van der Neert and Laurent Keersmakers. A great performance from the whole team there. Now, finally, last but not least, moving on to a driver who scored their two best results today, actually. Really seemed to get the hang of this circuit. And that, of course, is Dan Hutt. Hi, Dan. So we talked to you after race one about your result there, about your podium. And I asked you where you thought you were aiming in this race. You said top six, and you've come out fourth. So that's well inside your hope there. And your second best result of the year, immediately following your best. Fantastic.
Danny, you're echoing.
Yeah, Danny, if you can mute your microphone there, it's kind of echoing back everything else.
Oh.
You muted it.
Oh, I actually muted my microphone, so that's weird.
Okay.
I need to look in that. Then it's better for me.
Okay, continue.
Okay.
Yeah. So as I was saying, Dan, fourth place.
User disconnected from your channel.
Yeah, like at testing, I just realized today that I needed to race today, so I tested directly, and I didn't sometimes just hated the track, but then at the race I got in a rhythm, and then it was just a fun race. Then the third place was just luck, and the fourth place, I was fourth at the second corner. I started from 8th, so that was a really good start because of the crash at in all of us. And I'm seeing now that I'm just 9th in the driver standings, so that's a really good job. Looking towards or looking back at the last season, and I see my team, just for fun racing, has ended 5th in the constructor championship, so that's really nice as well. So we're now a bigger team, so that it's nice to see back in the results.
I tell you what, that boost of pace has come at just the right point for you to salvage that result there. Why this round? You know, have you done anything different with you know the setup or your driving style, or do you just suit this track?
I did testing at this track. I tested the car, the beta car, at the beginning of the season, and I only tested it at the Redbull ring. So, of course, I did a lot of laps on this track already. But I did at the other league. I had a race too at this track already this season. So at wet conditions, so I knew the track and how I needed to take the corners. Racing line in the wet on the dry, so yeah, I had a lot of car control, and that's why I performed so well.
Fantastic. So 2 very good results, and we hope to see you next season.
Yeah.
So that is the end of an extended interview session today, and actually the end of the entire series of the WCS GP series this year. So we hope that you, as a viewer, enjoyed the entire thing. And, well, I've been your commentator and cameraman this season, Joshua Penny. And I'm hoping to take this role in the next series as well, whatever the next series may be. Join us in a week's time on Monday. So not quite a week's time on Monday. It will be on the 2nd of July, so less than a week now, when we will have the finale of the Megané series, the WCSLeague Megané series, also at the Red Bull ring, which is obviously a very popular place to end a championship at. And after you join us for that, we will be back with the WCSLeague GP series whenever the next series is scheduled to start. So again, we hope you've enjoyed this as either a driver or a spectator. I've certainly enjoyed this series, and I will see you next season. Goodbye.